So it's been requested many a time to know what mods I have active to have my game looking so damn beautiful. Well, that's exactly what this video is going to be doing. There are many mods hiding in the workshop, most of which are content mods, but very few of them affect the visuals of the game. I'll be talking about the well-known, and also the lesser-known, including a few things thrown in that aren't particularly visual changes, but certainly enhance how the game looks. So let's get looking at those, shall we? Starting with lights and shadows! It's got light, it's got shadows, oh my! It does exactly what it says on the tin. It's called lights and shadows and that's what it is. Lights and shadows! Now, depending on how you have the settings, you can have it default where it's just, you know, gentle. You can have it basically non-existent, in that case, why have you got the mod running? Or you can... Oh, there you go, that's lights and shadows. If you're curious about my settings, here they are. Ah yes, good old fancy lighting. Another mod that does exactly what it says on the tin. It adds light. That's fancy. This mod does a lot of stuff to the lighting itself. Bloom, ambient occlusion, global illumination, and a variety of other lighting related things. However, if you just install the mod and go off the default settings, you aren't left with very much. It looks a bit nicer, sure, but if you go into the config settings and move this up to ultra, you get beauty, bloom, the darkness. When you're in the darkness with bloom, it is absolutely gorgeous. The question is having it on ultra settings taxing on your computer? Well, you're just going to have to be the judge of that because I have no idea. I myself have my own custom settings that I've done, and if you're curious on that, well, here they are again. Realistic skies! The entire sky is changed by this one mod. The blueness of the sky itself, the volumetric clouds, a big bright burning sun, and then the nighttime comes, following on with more volumetric clouds, starlit skies, not to mention the solar eclipses. Ooh. And the absolute best part of this? The weather. Depending on the current weather conditions, be it wind or level of rain, the clouding will either be slight or dense as heck. Now for the next mod that we're kind of going to be talking about is Shape of Light. Why kind of, you may ask? Well, I don't actually like this lighting mod, but it is a dependency for the Luminous Water Reflections mod. This will alter how liquids look and reflect, be it water itself, shimmer, and even lava. Basically, if it's close enough to it, it'll reflect, be it yourself, projectiles, anything. If you want to keep lights and shadows, you just turn everything off inside the Shape of Lights mod, and boom, the water reflections works perfectly. If you're curious as to why I don't like the Shape of Light, it feels too much for me. Plus, it is quite laggy. Now, onto one of my favourites, Rain++. It enhances the rain. Was that already obvious? But it doesn't just affect rain, it also adds in mist and fog, depending on how hard the rain is falling, depending on how much fog or mist you get. And this thing has quite the config. It may not be massive, but it certainly lets you control every single inch of this. And I've got mine cranked way up because I do like me some rain. Plus, the harder it is, the more mist and fog. And it's just ambient, it's beautiful. Now let's move on to the smaller mods, the ones that don't add too much on the graphical department, but certainly make a difference. First off, we're going with Better Night Skies. Anyone remember the Better Night Sky mod that was lost in 1.3.6? IDG, the dev of SGA, came out of retirement just to get this mod working again, and also enhanced it. We have the typical night sky that we've always had with a few changes here, there, and everywhere, but more so, it affects the shimmer. Instead of looking like this, it now looks like this. Next up is good grief, I can't say the word. Next up is atmospheric lava. It adds lava that's atmospheric. Good grief. No blur. For some reason in vanilla Terraria when mounts move diagonally, they blur. This mod stops that. It's as simple as that. Fancy hooks and flails. Hooks and flails now move, well, differently to what they do. It just looks better. Improved movement visuals. This mod, like Terraria Overhaul, has your head following the cursor. Furthermore, as you walk and fly, your body tilts in that direction. Enemies also follow this rule. It's just a case of a bit more immersion added, giving your character the ability to look around. Of course, if you don't want yourself leaning and just want the head tracking, that can be turned on because config files. Lures display bait. It's as simple as that. The bait is displayed on the end of the lure. It gives that little bit of extra immersion while you're fishing, which is incredibly helpful because it also shows you when you're out of bait. The amount of times I've fished without bait and didn't even know it because I wasn't paying attention to the numbers, my god! Combine this with the Sonar text icons that doesn't just show the text from the Sonar potion, it also shows the icon of what you've caught. Useful for those that struggle with words but have no problem with pictures. HP awareness. Ever struggled to know how much health you've got left because you're not paying attention to that top corner? Well, this mod fixes that. Configurable to percentage, depending on how much health you've got left, you'll start having this glowing red effect on the outside of your screen, followed by a sound effect based on your config choosing. Actual size item frames. Ever hated the fact that when you put a giant item inside an item frame, it shrinks? Well, this mod sorts that out. However, when you've got something that's absolutely gargantuan, it does get a little bit funny. The Liquid Slopes patch fixes liquids on slopes. In vanilla, as you can see, they are a bit janky. However, this sorts that out. Minor, but certainly keeps things looking nice. Colored damage types. Based on the class you hit the target with is based on the color it displays. By default, they're simply linked to what the colors of the pillars would be based on that class. The Loot Beams mod simply displays items with loot beams where they lie, and the color of their beam is dependent on their rarity. You also have something similar with boss glow bags that only affects the bag itself. Of course this list would be incomplete without weapons out. This is a different weapons out. It's like all the other weapons out, except your weapons are out differently. Your swords, guns, rocket launchers, mage staffs, summoner staffs, items, potions, you name it, most things have a completely different way of being held. Furthermore, its config files are so unbelievably robust. You can change each individual item, including custom ones, with their own custom way of holding. And if you're looking to spice up your main menu, how about Sam's cooler main menu? It's the main menu, but it's cooler. VFX Plus. At long last, this mod has been released, partially, which means I finally get to talk about it, partially. It changes the visuals of every single mage weapon. It doesn't affect their damage or hitboxes or anything like that, just the visuals. Even if it's the weakest wand of sparking you've ever seen, with this installed it'll still look like the greatest thing you've ever seen. The Demon Scythe obviously being one of my favorites, but nothing will ever top the gorgeousness that is the Last Prism. They're also working on the Ranger class, which is not released yet, but I have access to it, so here's a sneak peek. And finishing these minor graphical changes, we have Naka's inventory tweaks. It tweaks items that are moved in, out, and around the inventory, just with this little fancy animation. Really minor, but it's nice. Now you may be wondering why I'm not using a mod like better weapons visuals, and to that I say... Now, how about some audio-related mods? First off, we've got the Beefier Weapons mod. It makes weapons sound beefier. I don't know what else you were expecting from a mod called Beefier Weapons, but here we are. It primarily affects guns and rocket launchers, but it does include a few magic weapons as well. Why is this a mod and not a resource pack? I don't know, your guess is as good as mine. Minecart Sounds that enhance the sounds of minecarts. Yes, I get it, that's really small, it doesn't really do a whole lot, but it makes a difference. Now, for those thinking that the previous two were some low-hanging fruit, how about this one? The Terraria Ambience mod. This mod adds reverb, it adds echo, it adds so much to the game, especially when you go underwater and sounds are muffled. When you're in caves, the sounds bounce off the walls, perfectly gorgeous with a good pair of headphones. But there is a catch. It is laggy in certain circumstances, and for some mods that add a lot of different sounds, this really tanks the frame rate. especially in Infernum. My god. Sadly, I myself have to have this mod disabled because it affects the frame rate that badly that any jitter, it just affects my gameplay. And if I'm trying to no-hit something, the last thing I need is my frame rate jumping up and down. Now, I should possibly also mention resource packs. However, there are so many out there, I cannot physically do that. However, I can refer to you to mine, Cataclysmic's Amalgamation, which contains upwards of 200 plus resource packs of different textures, plus sounds. Can't tell you what's in it, because I have no idea, but if you want your game to look just like mine, I suggest you grab that pack for yourself as well. So with every single one of those mods active, all of the configs changed, the resource pack and even the ambience mod, you will end up with this. And there we go, that's it, that's everything I use. Now, if you know of any visual mods I missed or am not aware about, please do let me know, because I'm always looking for more enhancements to my game. So with all that taken care of, thank you all so much for watching, and now my time is up because a child now needs me. Off to fatherhood. See you all later.